Hey, co-parents, are you ready to give your hair the love it deserves? Well, let me introduce you to Nature Syrup. This is going to be your go-to for all natural hair care. And when I tell you that they also have body butters that I live by, please believe me. Their products are crafted with key ingredients that are not only socially responsible, but they're safe for your whole family. Now, whether you're dealing with kinky, coily, or curly hair, or even struggling with retention and growth, Nature Syrup has something for you. So say goodbye to all of the other generic solutions and hello to a product line that I stand by. Join the Nature Syrup family by visiting naturesyrupbeauty.com and purchase today.
What's up, y'all? So 2 days ago, just 2 days ago, I did a reel for the Break My Heart challenge for my dad. Someone was like, "Ooh, your dad got a lot of kids. You should do the Break My Heart challenge. He's probably breaking hearts back in the day." So they say. So I put it up on TikTok, thinking TikTok gonna be mean, then rude like they always do, and I put it on Instagram for my family. Lo and behold, Instagram, y'all niggas is mean. Y'all have been on my daddy's ass. Okay, the jokes have been hilarious. A little redundant. I need y'all to come with some new ones, but it's been funny. Number one thing though, y'all are not hurting my feelings. I have one child with my husband. Most of my siblings, some have none, and some have 1, 2, maybe 3 kids. We don't have a lot. We didn't follow in our dad's footsteps. These are some of my siblings right here. Not nearly all of them, obviously. But I wanted to show them because I want you to know that regardless of what my dad did, he gave me my siblings. He gave me my family. Every year we get together for what's called Sibling Day. And it's just a day of my dad's kids and our families. He's not there. Our cousins and our aunts and uncles aren't there. It's just for us. We barbecue, we play games, we laugh, we enjoy each other. Our kids get to play together, and be with their cousins. And it's truly a blessing.
All right. Hello, I am your girl, Alicia Price, and you're here with Co-Parenting Confessions. And you already know, if you've been here, you need to make sure that you share the podcast with your friends, like and subscribe, because we got some good stuff going on today. Now, I am always on social media and I'm always looking for some stuff to make me laugh, but also some really important content. And I came across our next guest on social media because y'all went in. And I was a little taken back. So I want you guys to meet Akita, because we are going to be talking about her father, who has 30 children, and she is going to share a little bit about his character as well as what it was like to be raised in a family where there were that many siblings and that many baby mamas possibly. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that's like. And so without further ado, Akita, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm sure you're like, how did a post turn into me being a guest on a podcast?
Yes, I'm wondering that very much so.
Yes. So I saw your post and I thought, wow, okay, of course, 30 children. We want to know more about that. But then I started to watch the reel.
I heard you bitches was looking for me.
The video you've all been asking for. Pictures of my siblings. Slow down so you can be nosy. What do 30 children by one black man with 2 black parents look like? Now, as you can see, my father's feature genes are very strong. But his melanin dreams, not so much. If our mother was lighter skinned, whether white, native, or Latina, we came out light. If our mother was black or mixed, we came out darker. So we all have different features of my dad. One thing is consistent: our eyes. Our almond-shaped eyes are actually a prevalent trait within my dad's side of the family. I've got aunts, uncle, cousins, all with those same eyes. Even my son has them. Bye for now.
And saw all of the video and the photos that you shared of your dad. And it is clear that you have a lot of admiration for your father and you really love him. So I'm a daddy's girl to an extent. And so I'm like, I love my dad. And I would have posted about my dad on his birthday and thought nothing of it. So I was like, well, why does this have so many views and so many shares? So I go and start looking at the comments. And that's when I was like, okay, wait a minute. I have to reach out to her because there's a story to be told here about like, who is your dad? What was your upbringing like?
Sure. Well, I want to dispel the first thing. I didn't grow up with my dad.
Okay.
As far as being there every day, as
Hmm.
far as coming to my programs or sports or things of that nature, he wasn't always there.
Okay.
So I was co-parented, I say, by my mother and my grandmother.
Okay. Yep.
Um, so that's the relationship I have with him is one where I yearned for him
Mm,
as a child. And so anytime he gave me any attention, I held on to it. I savored it. I thought about it until the next time I saw him. So I think that comes from the fact that my mom never bashed him.
yeah.
Um, she talked about her hard times. She talked about how she needed help. But the specific things she might have said about my dad, I didn't hear.
Mm,
Um, she would tell me stories about him. She would tell me about, during her pregnancy, how they were. She made sure that I knew my other siblings, so I would go to their house or they come to our house and we play. Um, so that's kind of the upbringing I had. A lot of people
yeah.
like he couldn't have been there. He wasn't. He
Yeah.
was not there.
Yeah. And I thank you for sharing that because there's a lot in that to unpack. Is one, I hear that your mother has done an amazing job by allowing you to get to know your father for yourself, which is
Mhm.
huge. And a lot of people don't really do that, especially when it's, a contentious kind of co-parenting dynamic, or they're not really sure if they want to co-parent, or the co-parent is not financially providing. So then they think, okay, well, you know what? I'm upset. I'm disgruntled about the situation, and you're going to hear about it directly from me because we're not going to glorify this person who's not showing up the way that I would want them to. And so, kudos to her, really, for being able to separate those things, from being able to say, I want you to know who your father is, and not necessarily see him through the eyes of my personal experience with him. That's
Right.
awesome. Yeah. The other thing I heard you say, which I would love to learn more about, is how she was able to connect you with your siblings. And what we know nowadays is that there's always drama, right? We hear that baby daddy, baby mama drama. And to hear that there was a mother who took the time to take you and meet with your other siblings and carry a relationship with them, that's fantastic. So, how did that happen?
Right. So we're gonna get a little bit into the nitty-gritty here. Um,
Yes.
and we're gonna get into a part that probably is a little different for people. So a lot of our mothers knew each other.
Okay.
I grew up in two parts of Seattle, I say. I grew up in Central District, which is the historically Black um, area where we
Okay.
were redlined, and then I grew up in West Seattle. In West Seattle, there was a project called High
Mm,
Point,
okay.
and so we grew up in High Point. And it was a lot of people that knew everybody else. It was a
Okay.
neighborhood. I mean,
Yep.
and the way the project was, it is because it's Washington, so it's a little different. It's not just one
Mhm.
building or several large buildings. They were previously housing for people who came to build ships and things for the wars.
Okay.
And so they were built like houses, in a giant neighborhood.
Mm.
Um, and so some of my siblings' mothers were friends with my mom.
Wow. Okay.
Um, some of them went to school with each
Yep.
other. Um, yeah, I mean that there's no other way to say it, but some of them knew each other.
Yeah. And so, how many mothers are there for 30 children?
I don't know.
You don't know. Now, so
I
how
don't
did you
know.
get to the number of knowing that there are 30 children total? And
I counted.
could there be more?
So the way it is kind of in my family, somebody knows somebody.
Okay.
So you might know five people, you might know six. I know of 12, you know of this many.
Wow. Yeah.
So the number came together really from us kind of compiling our uh, list. So when I say 30 plus, it is around 30 people. Now I know my dad knows the exact
Okay.
number,
Okay.
um, to a point. And the reason
Okay.
I say that is because there were three times he said where he thought it was his child, and the state did a paternity test and he wasn't his.
Okay.
So there are some that could possibly not be his.
Hmm.
But he claimed them.
Yeah. And so I'm glad that you shared that too, because I know a couple of different men who have several children. And I think after, I'm just going to throw this out here, after probably about six, seven, eight, it's like, well, yep, bring it on. Bring on another one.
Just
This
add
one
it
is
in,
mine
right?
too, right? This is mine too. Oh, well. And so it
And some of
sounds,
I'm sorry.
no, 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 go ahead.
I would say some of the our older siblings, they weren't his, they were born before he was there. They call him dad too, and he treats them like his
Wow.
child.
So when you started, you mentioned like I didn't grow up with him necessarily, and there was this yearning for a relationship with him. When did you meet him at a certain time, or did you know him, since you were, a young child, or how did your
So
relationship start with him?
I would see him between every 6 months to 18 months.
Mm,
So saw him when I was 7, and I maybe saw him again when I was 8, and maybe I didn't get to
yeah,
see him again until I was 10. Then I would go and spend the night. Like I spent the night with him, with my siblings. That he'd have a big group of us over,
yeah,
so I spend the night. He's taken me fishing. He was one of the people who taught me. I won't say he's the only person, but he's one of the people who taught me to fish. I remember the pink fishing pole he bought me.
mm,
Um, I remember coming and he was asleep from working whatever job he had, and me and my group of my siblings were poking him, trying to get him to give us money while he was tired. So I mean, I have
yeah,
these memories of him throughout my childhood, but it was not consistent.
yeah. And you know what? You mentioned fishing, right? Like that's a core memory for a lot of kids.
Mhm.
And so I want our audience to also make sure what they're hearing is that even if the father is not always there, not necessarily in the household, and there may be 6 to 18 month time frame where the child is not interacting, but when you do have the opportunity for them to have that relationship or that bond, those memories do become core. And so I'm sure there's some things that you learned from him in those times that you still hold very, very dear to you.
I do.
Yeah.
I He taught me how to shift in a stick shift. I still can't
Look at
drive a
that.
stick shift,
Right.
but not well. But what I do know,
Yeah.
I got from him.
I love that. Like that's amazing. Because people fathers first of all get a bad rep for not necessarily always being in the household if that's the case, right? And so then we always tie the financial ability to their wealth and their worth as it
Hmm.
pertains to being a part of the family. And so it's not the only thing that you can get from a father is him paying for things or paying all the bills or buying these gifts or
Right.
there's amazing things that you can still learn from the men that are in your life, especially your dad. So I got to go back to there being some mothers that were friends because we all want to know how did that go down. I mean, were their friends and they remained friends? Did they know that this one was also having a relationship with dad and they felt like it was okay? Or was dad just really kind of creeping and doing his thing and then this came out later?
My dad didn't have to creep.
Okay.
Every woman knew
Yep.
he had several women.
Okay.
Some of our moms, and this is from my siblings, who their moms told them this. Some of our
Yeah.
moms knew he had kids and wanted to be with him and pursued him.
Okay.
Even if he said, I'm talking to this person, or I'm dating this person, or I have these kids. I don't know what it is about him.
Yep.
I don't ever want to meet a man like that in my life.
That was going to
But
be one of my questions. Yeah. It's like,
so
so that's awesome though, because it's like, just like you said, okay, I learned how to remove a fear around driving a stick shift. You might not be the best at it, but you can navigate, right?
yeah,
And fishing and just some of these core memories that you have with your dad. But there's also some takeaways for you as an adult woman where you're like, you know what? But although I love him, and this is a part of, the makeup, the fabric of who I am, I'm making a conscious decision to not recreate this or to not have the
absolutely.
same type of relationship. Can you tell us a little bit about what your dating life has been like, or are you a mother? What has your adult life been like as a result of how you grew up?
Sure. So I am married. February will be 11 years. Um,
Oh,
so yep, we've been married. Yep. Oh God. It's been almost 11 years. I have a 6-year-old son. And then my husband was married previously 20 years to his first marriage. So he has four
wow.
children who are adult. Or no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Three are adult now. One's still a teen, but
Okay.
he has so there's the gap between his youngest and our son is 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 11 years strong. Congratulations. Like, that's
Thank you.
amazing. And how is that for breaking a curse? Like when we
Yeah.
talk about generational curses and things, and then also dispelling a myth that we look for the father that either we had
Mhm.
or we didn't have in the mate that we end up with. And
Right.
so clearly you found someone who is, you know, able to make commitment, has, respects the union of marriage. And that's very different than what you saw, from your father.
My husband is the exact opposite of my of my dad. My husband is very straightforward. He was in the
Yeah.
Navy for 8 years, so he's very straightforward. He's very regimented, not to the point where it's not fun or it's
Yeah.
overbearing, but just
Yeah.
he's gotten me on, better at being on time, on things of that nature. Whereas my dad is a little different than that. Not that he's not disciplined, but obviously not regimented because you have
Yeah.
too many children to be regimented. Um, and then, just I was looking for someone who's honest.
Mm,
It doesn't matter if I don't like it. If I ask you a question, give me the answer.
yeah.
And my husband's very much like that.
Yeah. And it almost sounds like, if, and correct me if I'm wrong, like that might be the thing that your father and your husband have in common, because it sounds like your dad was real honest. Like, this is who I am, take it or
I
leave
didn't
it.
even think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, like
very much
as an
so.
actual value, right? It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you who I am, whether you like it or not. This is who I am. Yeah.
Yes, actually, they are very much like that. It's funny, and really all my siblings, out of the 30, I'll just say 30. I say 30
Yep.
plus because it's
Yep.
salacious and it gets people going.
Right.
But out of the 30, I would say 27 of us
Mm.
have all gone the exact opposite. We,
Really?
yes, there's only 2 to 3 that kind of went bad, even worse than
Yeah.
my dad,
Yeah.
really.
Oh,
And so
wow.
unfortunately, but the rest of us, the most children that anyone has is 4.
Okay.
My brother, he has 2 daughters by his long-term girlfriend and 2 sons by his first wife.
Mm.
Um, a lot of my siblings don't have any children. They don't want any,
Wow.
or they want to be with someone. They want to
Yep.
be married. Like we remember what we went through. We don't want to
Yes.
do that again.
Yep. And that's exactly why I asked about your own upbringing and then your relationship, because a lot of times people, either mirror what they've experienced or they do the exact opposite because of
Hmm.
what their experience was. And so, I mean, it sounds like it's a really good thing that you have 27 siblings with you included, who said, you know what, I want to do this differently. Like, no
Yeah,
matter this is my upbringing, but I want to create something more stable and, as to use your word, regimented, like, to not have that same type of dynamic for your child or your children growing up.
yeah, yeah.
So
We
you
really. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, so I was going to ask, so you have some siblings that do have multiple children.
Hmm.
If you could share, is it more than 30? Has somebody actually done more than 30 that you know of?
No,
Okay.
four. Four is the
Okay.
max.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep. Awesome. That is good. That is really good. And does your all of your siblings have a relationship with your father?
No.
Okay.
Um, some haven't talked to him since the 90s.
Mm,
Um, some haven't talked to him for the last, 10, 15 years. To be honest, I didn't talk to him for 10 years.
okay.
I would say 8 years. And so we just reconnected mm, last beginning of this year.
Okay.
Beginning of this year.
Now, do you mind sharing, for those that maybe have a similar experience, what were the things that made you take that break of 8 years of, not communicating, and then now reaching out and having or rekindling kind of your relationship?
Typically, it was a miscommunication
Mm,
um, with social media, and
yep.
he thought that I had posted something that was accidental, that he thought I did it on purpose.
Mm.
Um, and it was his phone number. I'm not
Oh,
trying to be
okay.
clandestine.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that was complete accident because I was showing a text of him asking me when I was going to have kids. And I told him, "You have
More than
30
enough for
children. You
us.
have plenty of grandchildren. You'll be fine." So
Yeah.
anyway, so then he wrote something to me, and if you've noticed the comments, um, in the post
Yep.
and not to toot my own horn, I'm really good with words.
Yep.
Um, and so what I wrote back to him was everything I felt
Mm,
because, and I'm talking about from the first memory I have to now,
yep.
and I just let it all out, and I was completely honest with how I felt.
Mm,
We didn't talk, like I said, for 8 years. He would talk to my husband. When I had a miscarriage, he told him, condolences, all kind of things, but he wouldn't talk to me.
mm,
And I think his mortality is catching up with him,
yep.
and he's older, and so he has um, begun to rectify his errors
Yeah.
and try to mend. Unfortunately, for some, it's too late. Um, but I'm glad he's trying.
Yeah. No, that's good. And when you talk about him having a relationship with your father, what or with your husband, what has that been like?
Um, well, one thing, my husband actually asked my dad for my hand in marriage. Um,
Wow.
I told him you do not have to do that, but he really wanted to. And so they have always had a very cordial and happy relationship. But like I said, my husband doesn't take crap. So
Hmm.
when my dad hurts me, my husband speaks on it.
Yep.
And when we rekindled, I remember he told me, he said, I was talking to your dad, and he's saying he's so happy you guys are talking, and that he's gonna come to Gideon's birthday party. That's my son, and he said, I told him you better show up, don't play
Yeah.
around. So my husband very much is my advocate and goes at bat with my dad.
I love that. That is amazing that you have that protection. And almost in a
Yeah,
sense, it's something that you didn't necessarily grow up with or have your father there for, but you have that support.
yeah.
When
And I
when
have
you
to give
Yeah,
some. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say I do want to say one thing. My mom
yeah.
has three brothers.
Mm,
Those were my dad's.
yep.
So I never lacked the things around having a father. I lacked the
Yes.
actual person who was my father.
Yes, yes. That's really good. And so many people need to know that, right? Like if dad is not necessarily in a household or there's some tension or a reason why you're not able to have him be present, seeking out people within your family, within your community that can plug in and play that role of what a male figure would be in a child's life is so essential. And so like
Yeah,
amazing that you had 3 uncles that were able to fill in, when your dad wasn't there. That was really great.
yeah.
What would you say about your mom, you know, and what she had to endure or what she, took on? Describe who she is and what you learned from her as a result of this dynamic.
Well, to be honest, the first thing I should say is that me and my mother actually don't talk.
Okay.
We haven't for quite a few years. Um, she has a lot of her own demons that she needs
Mm,
to address.
mm,
And I think because of that, she was vulnerable.
mhm.
I think a lot of our mothers were vulnerable. All of our mothers were young, except for maybe a few. All of
Okay.
them were
Okay.
young, um, and dumb, and not making the best choices. And when my uncle went off to college, my mom didn't have her big brother protect her,
Mm.
and yeah, unfortunately, she went to a she embraced the hood. We were
Yep.
trying to get out. My grandma was trying to get out,
Mm.
and my mom's like, "Oh, I like this. Let's stay here." Well, and that's kind of the thing. So, but what I can say, she did a. Can I curse on here?
Absolutely.
She did a damn good job. I know it's a mild one, but I want to make sure she did a damn good job of raising me with, I mean, a nickel and a dream. I mean,
Oh,
she
yeah.
made a lot happen. My tenacity, my
Mm,
hard work, my perfectionism, my ability with words, my voracious reading habit. She loves to read. She would introduce me to books way above my reading level and tell me to get a dictionary and work it out.
yeah.
So um, I would say that the relationship I have with her, though contentious now,
Mhm.
my respect is always there for her, and my love is always there for her. And I hope that the same way me and my dad are um, reconnecting, I do
Yeah.
hope that we can reconnect with her. I can reconnect with her as well.
Yeah, I love that. Hopefully this interview helps because she's going
Yeah.
to just see all of the amazing things that you just said about her. And it's so important that we remember because we have a tendency at times to stereotype when we know, okay, here's a man who has this many children. Well, then what is the woman like? What wasn't she doing? What signs did she not look for? But I
Hmm.
love that you're opening up and sharing that there were things that she was lacking also, and so she was partnering and pairing with someone who could fill a gap for her and fill a void for her as well. And so, and
Yeah.
that's how all this shit happens, right? Like we're all looking for something in somebody, and it turns out to be either great, good, bad, ugly, who knows? And we never really know what it will be, right? But no one is
Right.
at fault for the ways that some of these relationships start. It's just about how we partner and pair and work together to raise our children. And what you've described is exactly the tenacity that a lot of single moms aspire to have, in spite
Yeah.
of the dad not being there, still, providing a great upbringing for their kids. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, we're wrapping up here, but I want to ask where things are with your dad in terms of social media and him seeing that post. Now that I know that he looks at social media, what has that experience been like for him? Does he know that you created that post and that it went
Yeah.
viral?
My dad doesn't have social media. Every
Okay.
time he's seen it, someone has brought it to him, a
Okay.
screenshot, a clip or something. So one, all the people saying such mean things, he will never see what you say. He
Yep.
asked me to tell him and I'm not going to because
Yep.
it just doesn't matter. Um, but as far as the video, he called me and he said that your brother told me about the video and everything, and I saw it, I liked it.
Well, the name you know, Dad, phone number you have, Dad, I hear I went viral on Instagram. That's kind of funny. I don't have an Instagram. But I would hear there were some things that weren't right. And I'm not ashamed of anything. So can you give me a call when you're not busy? And thank you for the video.
He was like, and but he said the comments are off. And I was like, yeah, I was getting a lot of notifications. People are being really rude. I was just like, whatever. He was like, no. He's like, I don't want you to be ashamed. He's like, you didn't do anything.
Mm,
And he's like, I'm not ashamed. I don't know if he should be, but but he was like, I don't want anybody to run you off of your things, of your stuff. That's
hmm.
your page. And I don't want you to be embarrassed by something that you didn't do. You literally you can't conceive yourself, so
Right.
I can't even be upset by that. So once and then my brother, of course, told him about monetizing and making money and all of that. So then he was like, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
but, you should definitely turn the comments back on." I was like, "Why? So I can pay your child support?" So,
No, wait,
but
girl. Is your
yeah,
dad, wait, girl. Is he paying child support?
um, I ain't never seen any. So,
Okay, because I was gonna say now I can only guess how old he is from seeing the photos, and I was just gonna say like I oh this is a good question. How old is your youngest sibling?
so my understanding, because I haven't met the youngest, is between 18 and 20. I
Okay,
meant to send a message to our sibling group chat to ask, and I forgot. But yeah, between 18 to 20. So, and then the oldest three are 50.
okay, wow. There was a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. One of my mom's friends, God bless her, she told me what they used to call my dad.
Uh oh.
He had two names. One was white boy because he's light skinned. But
Yep.
and people and oh, it's another thing. People think we're mixed, or my dad's mixed. He is full black. His mother was dark skinned. We just were kind of mixed up. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of PNW, the Pacific Northwest. Um, but they had that name, and he has curly hair, so he
Yep.
didn't have a Jerry curl. He would just buy the Jerry curl juices and berries and put that in his hair. So anyway, so that's one name, and the other name was Golden Tip.
Golden tip. So we can only assume what that meant.
I didn't even need to hear that from her.
Right.
But so yeah,
And this is what I think the comments so much were alluding to, right? Is like, oh, dad must got that deal because there's so many kids, right? Like people just automatically go there and assume all of those things. And you handled it so well. I mean, so
thank you,
well.
thank you. So many people are like, "Oh, he was, going from pillar to post and sleeping on this and
Yep.
and smoking this." And I was like, "Well, the two things. Number one, my dad had money, always had money, and whenever we needed it, and we saw him, he would give it to us. And number
Hmm.
two, you don't get high on your own supply. So my dad wasn't doing drugs.
Look, set it straight. And we know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what that means. So
Now, one last question. You mentioned that the mothers were young. Were they teen
uh,
mothers? Was your dad really young? What was that dynamic like? Because I think that does help to set some context for the fact that these children were not just like, he's laying here and everywhere. He was young and potentially moms were too.
the moms were young.
Okay.
He was not.
Okay.
Um, so he started young. So he did have, again, don't quote me, but I believe his first child he had when he was 13.
Okay.
Um, so but that is we don't know if that one was his. So
Yep.
really you kind of have to take a couple years. And so
Yep.
maybe about 18 or so is when he really had the one that we start counting, whatever.
Yep.
Um, but my mom was 16 when she met my dad.
Okay.
He was 29.
Okay.
He was 18 when she had me. He was 32. And I
Wow.
say that because that is a major reason of why there's so many of us.
Mm-hmm.
because a older,
Yep.
more mature frontal lobe fully
Yep.
developed,
Yep.
that wouldn't happen. So,
Yep.
that's why I defend my dad. Some of the comments he knows I let him cook
Yep.
because he kind of deserved this.
Yeah.
Not kind of, he
Yeah.
do deserve this.
And I get
And like I said, he has
exactly,
here.
yep, I get exactly what you're saying too, because it's like, and then, with the lifestyle that he led and having money and kind of more of this glamorous kind of hood persona, then people are gravitating toward that, especially the younger girls. And so now
Mhm.
it does make sense, where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, who's he over there? You know.
But he's also very intelligent. He has
Mm,
actually represented himself against the state of Washington and won.
wow.
He's very intelligent, and besides the street pharmaceuticals he's done, he has done scrapping. He has done worked at different places. So he's one of those numerous streams of income kind of person. Some legal,
Yeah.
some not.
I love it. Akita, thank you so much for sharing with
Of
us
course.
and providing some context and insight. I was sitting over there like, listen, I need to talk to her because I need to understand this. And I'm sure it is going to provide clarity for a lot of people that were in them comments with their questions. And so I just thank you so much
Yes.
for your time. I feel like what I really wanted people to also understand is that you can be exactly how you're showing up and be someone who was, one of many children, whether dad was there or wasn't there. You're not your story, right? You're not your upbringing. You can change what your life is, which you have
Absolutely.
absolutely done. Is there any last words that you would want to share with our audience if there's someone who has a similar upbringing as you and they're trying to make sense of it or maybe even ashamed of
Yeah.
telling their story, what would you say to them?
Um, I would say never be ashamed of what made you you. We
Mm,
are we are the sum of our experiences. And so um my experience with having so many siblings taught me empathy, taught me to, treat all people well because you never
mhm,
know what their lives are like. It also opened me up to love those who I I am blood related to and not, because I had
mm,
siblings who were both.
yep,
So and then it also taught me I don't want that. I don't want to
mhm,
be a single mother. I don't want to not be married. I don't want a whole bunch of kids.
yeah.
So I would just say, don't be afraid to tell your story, and because you might help somebody else.
Yeah, that's awesome. As I know we're wrapping up, but I have one last question that just popped into
Of
my head,
course.
and I'm like, somebody else got to be thinking this. Was there ever a time, because there's so many siblings, that someone accidentally dated someone and didn't
Oh
know,
gosh,
and then
yes.
and then found
Everybody
out,
asks
like,
that.
wait a minute, yes.
So there was one time where one of my brothers was hitting on one of my sisters
Mm,
and didn't know that was his sister.
yep,
And what we all do, every one of our mothers have said, anybody you date,
yep,
ask them who they are. So that has been, I mean, from little.
yep,
Even we would go to the park and be like, "Who's your dad?" I
yeah,
we might find a sibling. So nothing happened, no kissing, no touching, no nothing.
yep.
But yes, that has happened. 'Cause though there are lots of black people in Seattle, there ain't that many black people in Seattle. So,
No, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to just say to our audience, of course, thank you, Akita, for being with us today and setting the record straight about this viral post. But more than anything, telling us how important it is to own who you are. It is okay to celebrate your parents. Your story is not going to be the same as everyone else. It doesn't make you who you are, it's just a part of who you are. And Akita is a great example of ending some of those generational curses that sometimes plague us, make us feel like we're, not going to have the best outcomes in life. And that's not true. So thank you again for coming on the podcast and entertaining this whole idea. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes. You guys, like, share, subscribe. This is Co-Parenting Confessions, and we are talking about co-parenting from every vantage point that you can imagine. We're having fun with it. We're asking hard questions, but more than anything, we're normalizing what your life is. We want to be talking more and more about what co-parenting is and what it can be. And so stick and stay at Co-Parenting Confessions. And again, I'm your host, Alicia Price.
MBC. No relation to NBC.